Solving percentage problems using a dual number line. Let's look at some sample problems. There are 60 books on the shelf and 20% are cookbooks. How many cookbooks? There are 60 books on the shelf and 12 are cookbooks. What percentage are cookbooks? There are some books on the shelf and 12 are cookbooks. If 20% are cookbooks, how many books are on the shelf? There are three types of percentage problems. The missing part. What number is 20% of 60? The missing percent. What percent is 12 of 60? The missing whole. Finding the whole given 12 is 20%. We may need to make sure we use all types of problems when assessing for learning. Solving percentage problems. The dual number line has a very strong visual impact. It emphasises multiplication and division, is used to organise thinking, sorting out what is known and what is unknown. And this is an important general thinking strategy. Now let's look at how we can set up the dual number line. This is what we mean by a dual number line. On the left hand side, with the percentage problems, we have the top left corner is 100% and we know this. We also know the bottom left hand corner is 0%. On the right hand corner, top, we may or may not know the total. But down the bottom, we definitely know that this is 0. In between, we may or may not know this value as a percent, or we may or may not know this value. Now let's use the dual number line to find the missing part. There are 60 books on the shelf and 20% are cookbooks. How many cookbooks? We set up our number line approximately where 20% would fall, and this is very good work for students to work on the number line and find where values are placed approximately. We also know that on the top right hand corner we have the total number of books, which are 60. And we have to find what 20% represents. One approach could be to find what we would have to do to go from 100% to 20%. In this instance, we would divide by 5. So now what we do on the right hand side, we divide by 5. And this will give us the number of books, 12, which represents 20% of all the books. Now let's look at another way of doing it, the unitary method, using the dual number line to find 1% and then find 20%. There are 60 books on the shelf and 20% are cookbooks. How many cookbooks? Our dual number line is set up. Place our total number of books on the right hand side top. We estimate where 20% would be and we estimate where 1% would be on the left-hand side part of the number line. Then we have to find what would we have to do to go from 100% to 1%? We would divide by 100. Now looking at the right hand side, same thing, we would divide by 100. We would get 0.6. That would give us what 1% represents. To get 20%, we would then have to multiply by 20. And so now, to find what 20% represents in the number of books, we would multiply 0.6 by 20 and we would get 12. Instead of 1%, let's look at another variation, say 10%. We'll use the dual number line to find 10% and then find 20%. Same problem. We set up our dual number line. We work out approximately where 10% would be. We know then to go from 100% to 10%, we would divide by 10. We would then need to multiply 10% by 2 to get 20%. Then we would proceed with the values we know. 60 books on the shelf. We would divide by 10 and that would give us 6. We would then multiply by 2 to give us 12. We can always use the dual number line to go backwards. In this instance, this problem of 20% of books on a shelf of books are cookbooks. If there are 12 cookbooks, what is the total number of books on the shelf? In this instance, we would work backwards. We would divide by 2 and then multiply by 10. Backtracking to get back to the original value of 60 books. The dual number line is a very useful organizer. It helps formulate a problem mathematically from a worded problem. It helps with estimation. It uses multiplication and division only on the diagram. Problem solving using a mathematical diagram, but not a picture. It focuses on the efficiency of various approaches. And it depends on the numbers involved, the mental skills, etc. Remember, one quantity on each side of the line. Example, cups and grams. Best of luck and good teaching using the dual number line.